so excited to be joined with you. Thank you so much for giving me your time.
I'm excited to be here and honored to be here, Sabrina, that you wanted to know a little bit more about my work life.
Yeah, so speaking about your work life, let's just get right into it. So if you wouldn't mind kind of telling me what your title is and a little bit about your career, maybe what a day in the life sort of looks like for you.
Sure. So I'm a senior web application architect, and I work for a small company. So the kind of work that I do is very varied, as in, goes right from customer facing to back end coding. So it's a range of work that I do. It's like a full suite, and it's not very uncommon, but it's also not very common where you'd see a whole range like this within our kind of field. And what does a day look like for me?
Yeah.
I would say change is probably the only constant.
Okay.
And there's a lot of changes with respect to like customer requirements or like how we implement it to new technology. And so I can never say I completely know something, because there's always something new that comes up, and then that's something that is very different. So I work a lot with customers to get to know what they want. And I work a lot with back-end engineers as well to kind of relay this information and even be part of both the teams, as in trying to figure out what do we want to see in the front end, or like, the whole application as such, and also to see how this should be implemented and also be part of the implementing team.
Got you. So it sounds like communication is really important, because not only you like frontward facing with your client and the customer, but also with the engineers. So you kind of have to know all the different forms of language, it seems like, and also
Definitely.
how the system works.
Definitely.
Wow, that's really cool. So it sounds like there is that social kind of like customer service portion of it, but then also the technical aspect. So I'm curious as to what type of education or background do you need to have in order to get into your career field?
So as a entry-level programmer, in my career, I have seen people who have all kinds of backgrounds go into it. So there's no requirement as a profession as such that says you have to have a certain kind of degree to go into this field. But, some kind of basic programming skills, especially with respect to the technical side of it, right? So I've known people right from like being even in the medical field come into this, or like, engineers go into it, and psychology, and like chemistry majors, math majors, and, it's like very, very varied.
Yes.
So, I have a master's in computer science, and the advantage I've seen is with that kind of a degree that for me, it's easier to see the whole picture in a different light. So I'm not just focused on like one particular area that I know. So that's kind of helpful, but it's definitely not a requirement. So anybody who's like, just taken some kind of course and want to do something,
right,
can come in and start off.
Great. So what would you say is one of the things that you enjoy the most about what you do?
I like the solving problem aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really, that's been very fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's even to the extent of like talking to customers, getting to know what they want, or sometimes they don't know what they want,
Right.
and you're talking to them to kind of walk them through to get them to understand what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So that part has been fun. And as far as coding goes, it's almost like magic, right? Like you do something somewhere and then the end result is like, wow, it's really working now. So the journey may not be as fun, but when you see the end product, is really a fun thing.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I can imagine that that takes a lot of work in that process too. So to see it come to fruition is huge. So would you, I guess, with all of your knowledge and understanding of this profession, what kind of advice could you give to those people who might be looking to make a career transition, like you mentioned, maybe like those in the medical field who are thinking about, going into IT or an IT related field? Is there any advice that you could give to people, whether, wherever they're at in their lives?
I would say this is something that anybody could pick up anytime, if they have an open mind and adaptable, because there's a lot of change and a lot of learning that happens constantly. So if you are the kind of personality who enjoys learning, then that's something that, will play towards your advantage.
Yes.
And it might seem overwhelming in the beginning, and it might seem frustrating as to why it's not working. Like, it's very easy for something not to work because there was a comma instead of a period. It's such a small thing, but then an O instead of a zero.
Right.
But if you're patient, you learn how to look for these little nuances that can make it difficult, and then it'll be easier. So I would say, a little bit of adaptability, a little bit of patience is one thing. But then the fulfilling factor that happens when you see the smile on people when they see the product or use the product, and it's just made a little bit of difference to them, is very rewarding.
Wow, that is great. And I think, I think what a lot of us do is we're here to help people, to make things easier, to have solutions. And so with that, my last and final question is, if you could replace all of the grass in the world with something else, what would it be?
Plants and trees that would give you food.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great one, right? That'd be awesome if you're just like walking around the trail and then like there's, some fruit tree that you could just go pick off of. I love it. That's great. Well, May, I, again, cannot say how thankful I am that we were able to share this space together for a little while. I know that what you shared is going to be priceless to other people who are interested in the field. And I just want to, again, say thanks. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Sabrina. I appreciated it.